We've got AS Cobb here with us now. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Now, you are some sort of an expert on language, aren't you?
I consider myself to be an expert of communication and language. I absolutely love
Yeah.
language. So yes, I love communicating.
And you are a teacher, aren't you?
I am a teacher. I teach high school communication, public speaking, and speech and debate. And I also coach a high school speech and debate team.
Yeah. What's it like teaching communication?
It is the best and worst thing that ever happened to me because
Yeah.
it's such a challenge to navigate through how students talk of this generation and
Yeah.
how you want to get them to communicate, for their future purposes.
Yeah, absolutely. And with high school children, is it a bit hard because you get the extroverts and then the other half, the introverts, that maybe aren't really confident at communicating verbally? So, does it take a lot of struggle for you to help students like that?
It's a bit of a struggle, but one thing that helps me is I'm very honest with them.
Yeah,
I grew up with several speech impediments, a lisp, a slur,
yeah,
and I stutter. And to this day, I stutter. And, I've been successful as a debater in college. And this guy who had all these speech problems, I now teach speech and debate and communication. And
mm,
so that kind of lets the kids know that I'm humble and let them know that they can accomplish something as well. And I've got a lot of techniques, a lot of activities that I do with them to
yeah.
kind of let them learn to laugh at themselves. And once they laugh at themselves, you can get anything out of them. And it's one of the most rewarding parts of my job is to see that extrovert turn into the introvert turn into the extrovert
Yeah.
and the extrovert just bring it down just a little bit.
Yeah. There's no better teacher than somebody who's gone through it themselves, right?
I believe that because you understand the struggles, the challenges,
Yeah.
and you're also always aware of the end goal. You keep your eye on the prize. And I'm able to transfer that to the students and let them keep their eye on the prize and know what the end goal is to be successful in life and to be taken seriously in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how did you first start to get interested in communication? Was it your own personal struggles with it growing up?
I think it was by design, honestly, because I walked into my first communication class, my first debate class, like 3 days and 5 minutes late.
Wow.
And the moment I crossed over the threshold of the class, I promise you, I absolutely knew that I had to change my major to communication. I needed a degree in communication. I wanted to work in communication and I had to teach communication. I promise you, within those fractions of seconds, it just came over me. And I feel like it was just divine, honestly. And I got serious about college and I just trucked on through. It had taken me years to get serious about it. And just the fog was lifted. I finally understood how to get through college, how to do college. And it led me on, I would have purpose. So it just led me on my purpose, towards my purpose. And
Yeah.
here I am now, so rewarded.
So, when you were studying communication, did you think that you wanted to go back and help young people in this way, or were you just expecting to have some sort of other job that's loosely linked to communication?
I've always done like marketing and PR on the side, but I
Yeah.
always knew that I was going to be that lean on me teacher, that teacher that just went to an inner city and made some type of change.
Mm.
I just felt like that's what I was propelled to do. But I always knew that I would have like side jobs and side hustles, but always communication. And communication, it really saved me from like a really dark path. When life opened up for me, it opened up. And so I teach a group of students that, come from very hard backgrounds, very rough neighborhoods and low socioeconomic levels. And I know what good communication skills is going to do for them. It's going to have people look at them seriously,
Yeah.
take them seriously, and give them opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with me. And I just want to pay that forward and just show them that it can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel like people shouldn't be discriminated against even if they have communication problems?
That is such a great question. I think that I'm on the fence with that. I believe that, once you've been exposed to proper communication and effective communication, now you're accountable to communicate in that way and to operate underneath that umbrella of standards. And underneath the umbrella, we all speak the same. We don't make people feel uncomfortable. We just kind of compromise and we negotiate, our communication skills. But outside the umbrella, that's where we speak in our dialects and such,
Yeah, absolutely. And during this pandemic, it's been hard to have face-to-face communication.
Yeah.
So do you think the internet has helped us through in a way?
It definitely filled a void as far as like, shrinking the globe and helping us communicate, lightning fast speeds. And at the same time, some people have gotten closer to the internet than they have with their family and friends.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can be a different person behind the screen than you are, face to face. So it emboldens people to kind of lose their manners. And I'm in the South and I believe in Southern manners and stuff. And people are a little more bold. I'll say that. And less full of manners.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that from doing these interviews online, it is a lot more easier to speak comfortably to people, because if I was face to face with someone, I'd be all nervous and I don't really like making eye contact. I find it awkward. So if I'm just on an audio call with someone, I can feel a lot more confident and not shy.
That makes so much sense. I'm the same way. I teach eye contact, but it makes me uncomfortable. I do it because I know that I have to do it if I'm presenting. But behind, here, you can be whatever. So that's why I like to send emails or calls, because I have a lot of customer service issues and they don't know who I am. They don't know if they know I'm male, but they don't know if I'm black, white, or Asian or whatever. And, they just kind of treat me just like a person. And it's not always like that in person. Not that everybody's prejudiced or anything, but we do have our prejudices, which are prejudgments.
Yeah.
And it's not always harmful, but it's not always helpful,
Yeah, so that's one of the good things about communicating via audio. I suppose an even better way to avoid discrimination is an email or a letter, I suppose, although then they might still see your name.
Yes, and you know what? That's one reason why I am AS Cobb. You don't know if you're getting hit by a man or woman or anything, or a Mack truck.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yes.
And I hear a lot, particularly we were always taught this in school, that talking is not even the majority of the communication we make, is it?
That's not. Talking makes up about maybe 20 to 30% of our communication. Yeah. And most of our communication is up to 77% is actually nonverbal communication, our facial expressions and our body language and, little grunts that we make and things like that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, and that's one thing I like to teach, even my counterparts, but students, is to make sure that your body language does not detract from your message or does not contradict your message. Because you could be saying something nice, but, you have like RBF or you just have a scowl on your face. Yeah. And it's going to be off-putting to people, and you just have to be conscious of that. And that's one thing that I love to communicate, is like being aware of the total self.
Yes, absolutely. You've got to do that. Is listening part of verbal communication? Because that's probably the thing we do most when we're talking to someone, isn't it?
It is. I know they have a saying that the older people used to tell us when we were younger. They would say, "You got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you could do twice the thing."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
to hear that all the time.
It makes a lot of sense. And, you don't have to utter your whole mind. In Proverbs, it says a fool will utter his whole mind. And, there's something to be said about that. You don't have to say everything that's on your mind. You can pull back a little bit and, communicate what's important, but listen to what another person has to say. It's respectful, and you learn. We don't learn if we don't listen. We can read things, but a good listener is a learned person, and it's important that you do that because it's respectful, and everybody wants to be listened to, wants to be heard, and you show yourself as a better person of quality, a better character if you can listen. Of course, talk, but let everybody else have a chance to talk, because communication, it says, it's a two-way situation whereby each party gets to send and receive messages. So yeah,
you can't expect anyone to listen to you if you're not going to listen to them.
Amen.
And also, I think that if everybody did say everything that was on their mind,
what a mess, right?
Yeah, they would end up not having any friends at all, because they would say absolutely horrible subconscious stuff about people.
Exactly. There's definitely the benefit of having a filter. There is a benefit to that, and that is keeping your friends and probably not being in jail for like, threatening someone or, there's a benefit to that.
Yeah.
A fool will utter his whole mind and it can lead you down a dark path.
Do you have any tips on how to maybe improve someone's filter? Because even if we know it's wrong, sometimes we do accidentally say stuff and think, oh no, I shouldn't have said that. Do you know how to stop that?
Absolutely. I would say two things. Number one is take a beat, take a pause, take a moment before you react. Yeah. Because there's counsel in that moment of silence. And if you just take a step back and just say, do I need to respond to that? In which way do I need to respond to that? You're going to come out with a higher quality response, and also in the response from your person there. And the other thing is to just ask for feedback. Some people just are so egotistical that they don't want feedback, but it's a humbling thing when you say, what can I do to do better? Or what do you need me to say at this moment?
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. Like if someone asks you a question, sometimes you need to ask them, what type of response are you looking for from me?
Yeah.
And ask if it's a rhetorical question.
And sometimes that could feel a little bit unorthodox, though. I don't know if you're just talking with your friend and you're like, what response do you want from me? I don't know if that feels a little bit wooden.
You know what? It is a bit of a cheat.
Yeah.
It's a cheat. Absolutely. But so I know I have friends and they really just sometimes need to talk, need to vent. So I'll ask them like, do you want me to respond to that? And literally sometimes they'll say, you know what? No, absolutely. No, I don't. No. So I'm like, okay, it doesn't work for everybody. I don't think it works for more people that you don't know.
Yes.
But someone you can ask them, how do you want me to respond?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've started podcasting to generate some additional income, haven't you?
Yes, I'm trying to pursue my master. Well, I am pursuing my master's in speech communication because I would like to move from being a public high school teacher to a college professor of communication. And I really want to meet some of my students that will be going to local colleges and universities. I think it would be great to for them to step on campus and see Mr. Cobb there as their communication teacher in college. And I think we can expound on a lot of things, but continue the relationships that we built and just continue to inspire them. And so I podcast and I'm trying to just generate that money so I can get some tuition paid and become Professor Cobb. I would love that.
Absolutely. Well, what do you do in the podcast? Are you talking about communication in that, I'm guessing?
Yes, it's all communication based. One of my favorite segments is called Relationship Non-Negotiables, Make Them Known. And it just, talks about establishing your boundaries and accept what you can accept and make sure that people know what you will never accept and never accept what you can never accept. Because once you accept it, it's, you put a hole in your armor. So and then we talk about social emotional learning and procrastination, and just my saying is everything is communication and communication is everything. So I just you can link anything to communication and you can strengthen almost anything through effective communication. And that's what my podcast is about. Keep calm and work it out is what it's called.
Yeah, and a podcast is a form of communication, so it's one of the best platforms to talk about it on.
Exactly. And it's really growing fast. So I appreciate the opportunity to get to talk about it and, to be on there and, have my friends listen to me, because sometimes I plant little messages for my friends.
like little in jokes.
Yes. And I'm like, so did you, or I'll throw something out while I'm having a conversation with them. And if they don't catch it, then I'm like, you haven't been listening to my podcast. You would know what that means.
So that's a good way to check up.
Yes. And they've called me a lot of names because of that. But I'm like, well, it's fun. It's funny. But, we have to take care of each other.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to start a GoFundMe page as well. Is that also to help you get the tuition fees? It's
only to get tuition fees. I've been tweaking it, here and there. And I just want to have the best message because it's a very humbling thing to be, at this place in life where I know what I want to do and I just don't have the means to do it. And I think I'll have it later on, but I'm ready to get it done. And I believe it's my purpose to get it done. So I have a GoFundMe that I'm starting and it's going to help me raise tuition. So I'm hoping that people will listen to my podcast and donate to the podcast, donate to the GoFundMe. And And I'm not just a taker. Anything that I could do, for people in the world. And I know this sounds like so convoluted, but of course, locally, anything that I can do, I try to help friends promote their businesses, or, I like to volunteer a lot, or, my thing is words. So I write poetry for some people and perform poetry, do little performances. I'll do not anything, but I like to sow positive seeds in the world. And at this point, I'm trying to reap just a couple of positive seeds.
Yeah. Well, where are we able to check out the podcast then to listen to?
I am on anchor.fm/ASCobb. That's ASCOBB. And it's actually on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I believe it is, and Google Podcasts.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. It's been a very interesting interview and a very interesting guest.
Absolutely. I thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.